What's happening, good people? It's your girl, Miss Kecia, with a little chat and chew. And happy April to you. I am so excited about this series. We are about to go in. It is just gonna be amazing. Like, I don't even have no words for it. I did a whole video to let y'all know what was coming up. But from now on, I'm gonna do my daily polls so everybody can know what to be expecting. So for the month of April, you guys, we're gonna do the battle of the eras. Who really had it popping? Who really had the most impact on the world? So tonight we're gonna start with our baby boomers. But before we start, here's my disclaimer. These thoughts are my thoughts and those of my guests. So please don't take it personal. And if we can have to agree to disagree, so be it. Nonetheless, first we're not even gonna hesitate with what's going on, who's gonna be on here tonight. So my baby boomer, one of my favorite baby boomers, is going to be my guest tonight. It will be my mother, Sally Jean. Tell the people, hey, ma.
Good afternoon, everybody.
So, so like I was saying, we're gonna do the battle of the eras. So of course we're gonna start with the baby boomers. And the baby boomers are from like 1946 to 1964. And what year was you born, mama?
1950.
1950. So she's right there kind of like in the middle. Well, no, not really, but she kind of like towards the end, but she went through the rest of the era. So we're going to ask her some questions. We're going to hear it from the baby boomer side of the house. What's her thoughts? And thankfully, she's still here to be able to tell us about, some things that happen in that. So, mom, you know, as as any other guest on my show, um, we just have candid conversation. Just let it flow. Just let it flow. It's a free flowing conversation. Okay. Only thing, I'm going to make sure that I do not swear. Okay. No swearing tonight. Okay. So, all right, Ma. So you was born 1950. So tell us, like, how was it when you became a child? Like, what was the world like?
Born and raised in the South is totally different would be different for me because this is where I was born and raised to.
Mm-hmm.
And I was born into the generation that segregation had not been even
Fully right.
uh,
Yeah. Okay.
fully right as of
Right.
yet.
Right. Right.
So therefore, I went to an all black elementary school,
Mm-hmm.
which is Carver Elementary.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
went to an all black junior high school,
Mm-hmm.
which is Wilson Junior High School,
Mm-hmm.
but no longer exists.
Right. Right. It's
And
gone now.
I went to a black high school,
Mm-hmm.
and I graduated in 1969
Sonians
from,
all the way.
excuse me,
I said Wilsonians all the way. I
all the
graduated
way,
from Wilson too, so
all
we
the
just
way.
kept it going.
Anybody who is near Florence knows about the purple and gold, and
That's
that's
right.
Wilson High School.
That's
And I
right.
graduated in 1969.
Okay.
Well, as coming up,
Mm-hmm.
we had to do walk to school.
Mm-hmm.
There was no bus
Okay.
enough for the black children
Okay.
to receive buses to school.
Right. Right.
So I came up with five brothers,
Mm-hmm.
and I was the only girl and the baby.
Okay.
And my brothers would take me to school
Mm-hmm.
because my mom had to go to work.
And what kind of work did grandma do at that time?
At that time, my mother was a babysitter and a housekeeper.
Okay.
She got picked up every morning
Mm-hmm.
by this lady and this little girl, and she would always ride in the back of the car.
Mhm.
And that was something that will anger me.
Yeah, it would probably stick with you
It
all these
stuck
years
with
too.
me.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
as I grew up, and the things that we had to go through, and
Mhm.
I can just mention a few of them.
Mhm.
We had certain parts that we were not even allowed to go in
In
Florence,
Florence?
in right in Florence. There was a place called um, Dargan Street,
Mhm.
and we had a railroad track.
Mhm.
We couldn't go across that railroad track a certain time. We wasn't allowed to go across there. If
Mhm.
we did, we could go to jail.
Oh, wow.
We had one drugstore that we could get medicine from, but
Mhm.
we could not go in the front door and
Oh.
drop the prescription off.
So
We
how did
had
you get it in there? Oh.
a little box in the back of the store in the parking lot. You get out the parking lot, you walk to the back of the store, and
Mhm.
there was a little window, a box window, and you put your prescription through that.
Wow.
Everybody else could go through the front, and they had an ice cream parlor there, and they could sit down and eat ice cream. But we, as black people, we wasn't allowed. And I remember back in the 60s, my brother went to this particular drugstore and ordered some ice cream, him and his friends. And all of them got put in jail.
Who was that? It had to be Pat.
That was Uncle Jake.
Oh, Uncle Jake. What? Uncle
Right.
Jake was a rebel? Shut up.
Yes, sir. So we came up under a strict, and when
Mhm.
I tell you strict, a strict ruling.
Yeah, I bet.
Okay. In other words, in Florence, they will have certain area we couldn't live in, we couldn't
Mm.
shop in,
Wow.
we could not be seen in after dark.
Mhm.
And as I grew up into that, I made up my mind a long time before I left that I was not going to stay here.
Right, right.
When I got old enough to leave, I was going to leave.
But okay, so how before we talk about you leaving and the difference between, when you left to go to New York, how the difference was being in New York versus being down south. How was the family like you know, because of the way things were. I mean, because we can read and we could watch movies, and we see back in those times, during the 50s and the 60s, it appears that the black community, the family was really tight. Was it that way with our family? Were we close, like living
Yes,
living arrangements? Were we like, how a dot and the house that grandma was in when I grew up, and you know how close they were,
right,
was it
right,
in
right.
our mini was down the street, a little around the corner,
Exactly.
whatever. So
They
was
were
it
in the
always like that?
percentage.
So
They were in the percentage of each other.
okay,
Okay, you knew we were family.
right, okay,
Okay, and they were the aunts and they were the sisters.
right, right,
Okay,
hmm,
and they took care of us.
right, right,
All
right.
righty,
So it was
but
more, it's just,
family oriented.
yeah, just like what you see. Okay, all right,
Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, and Doc could whip me.
yeah, yeah.
My mama could whip her children,
Mm-hmm.
and Minnie could whip me, and my
Mm-hmm.
mama could whip
Right,
Minnie's
right, right,
kid.
right, right.
So that's how we grew up.
Even like neighbors, like, because I remember Miss Janie that stayed next door to my grandma, and Miss Janie would watch over me and, you know, take care of me when Granny was gone or whatever. So was it?
Right.
It was just like that, like when you was coming up still, right?
It was still that way.
Okay.
It was still. Let Let me tell you this. We lived on Coy Street,
Mm-hmm. I remember that
and
house.
right next door to us was an old lady and an old man named
Mm-hmm.
Mr. and Mrs. Feller.
Mm-hmm.
And my mama could go anywhere. And those two people could watch us from their house to my mother's house. And we knew to obey them.
Right, right.
And those was neighbors. So that lets you know
Yeah.
back
But the
then,
community as a whole,
everybody, the
right, the
whole
black community as a whole was more
exactly,
pulled together,
yeah,
like a family, like we're
like
gonna
a
take care of
family,
each other, a community. When they say it takes a village,
a
like that's really
village.
what it was,
That
right?
what it was. I came up where I was everybody village,
Right,
okay? And they took good care, they fed you,
right.
they watched you,
Yeah.
okay? They treated you just like you were one of them.
Right. Because I was getting ready to say, like, okay, so you explain the struggles of coming up, you know, in the 50s and the 60s, as a child, having to see, granny be picked up, and to go to these people's house to take care of their families,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And I know granddaddy worked he was a sharecropper, and I know
Uh-huh.
Mr. Chick, I want to say worked on the railroad, maybe.
He worked on the railroad.
Right. So then, but now let's go to like the lighter side of things, like because I know you and Audrey be telling stories. Y'all used to tell stories about how y'all used to turn up when y'all was,
Yes,
high
yes.
schoolers and all of this. So tell us about like that part of it, like
Okay.
the
Well,
whole Wilson thing and all of that.
well, when I got into high school, we became the Soul Five.
Oh
It
my
was five
word.
of us.
Not
It
the Soul
was
Five. You
me.
ain't ever told me that, Mama.
If we were the Soul Five, okay? Whatever one did, the whole five did. All right. But for some reason, I had more guts. And that's the only thing I can say. I just had more nerve than the rest of them. So they would dress me up. And we kept the dress and the pocketbook and the heel. We kept them in Audrey's car. And I would put them on and go in the liquor store to get the liquor and come back out. And we had clean fun. When one cut school, the other one cut school. But we
Y'all
didn't
had
cut
each other
school
back.
until just before when it got hot. And it was just, we knew we were graduating. We didn't care. Okay. So we used to cut school, and there was right across from Wilson High School. There was a little
You talk
juke
about
joint
when
down
Wilson
the
was
road.
over. You talking about when Wilson was
The
over
old Wilson School on Irby
on
Street.
Irby Street. Okay,
Right.
okay.
And right down the side road, which was a dirt road, they
Mm-hmm.
had a little place called Mom's.
Mm-hmm.
And Mom used to sell Valley High.
What's
And
that?
it would come in orange, and it would come in like a ginger ale. And we would go buy them things and go hide out. Go to my mama house, because I knew my mom wouldn't be home. Or go to Miss Connie house, because Audrey knew Miss Connie wasn't gonna be home. And we did clean stuff. We had clean fun.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I can remember all the stories coming up. Y'all used to tell
Yes.
about, yeah, all the stuff y'all used to do. Now let's transition into, all right, so you're in your early 20s and you decide um you want to move from the South, and Uncle Champ, your oldest brother, was already in New York.
Right.
So Uncle Champ was in New York. Uncle Jake was in New York,
Right.
and Uncle Fred and Uncle Richard was already up north.
No, Uncle Richard wasn't up north.
Where was Uncle Richard at?
Uncle Richard was in Florence with me.
Oh, okay. So you went to New York before Uncle Richard?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Was Uncle Fred already up there?
He was in Jersey.
Okay, yeah, Fred was in Jersey. Okay, so
Right.
all right, so when you decided to go to New York, now tell me from that point on.
Okay. When I decided that I was going to New York,
Mm-hmm.
my mother said no, because my mother never wanted me to leave her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was the only girl, I was the baby. And
Mm-hmm.
she always felt that she had um that that rap.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, that bond, that
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't leave her. But I knew for years, as I stated earlier, that I knew I wasn't gonna stay there.
Mm-hmm.
So I graduated May 28th, 1969.
I was gonna say 1990.
No, 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 no,
Okay, okay, okay.
1969. And I knew I was going to New York. So one day my mom went to work during the summer after I had graduated, and she went to work. And when she came home, I told her that my brother called and said that he had a job for me, and the job was waiting on me at the telephone company. I
Mm-hmm.
hadn't applied to Nam Telephone Company.
You know
Okay.
what's crazy, Mom? No, listen, though, listen. This is crazy because you like telling me these stories, and I've never heard some of these stories, right? So I'm sitting here listening, like, she's like, I'm leaving Florence.
I'm getting out of Florence.
But when I told you I was leaving Florence, you was like, "But I don't know. I mean, I know you want to go, but you know, don't go." And then, like, when you telling this story about how you left to go to New York, it
That's right.
reminded me. It reminded me of when I joined the army. When I was like, hey, ma, I joined the army and I leave in 2 days. So it's
And that
like,
when
we
I
don't
lost
fall
it.
too far from the tree.
But I left. My mom called my brother. My brother didn't know what my mother was talking about. So I said to him, if she call you back and ask you, you better tell her yeah. So he told her yeah, so I could get away. And she bought me a one-way ticket. And she went downtown and bought me a paper. At that time, suitcases used to be made out of something like cardboard boxes.
Okay, all right.
And she bought me one of them. And Mr. Chick bought me a ticket July the 5th, 1969, and put me on the train. And when that train pulled out of Florence, I said, I refuse to look back. Never will I look back. And I didn't. And I stayed up there
Yeah,
39
you
years.
sure did. So
39 years.
So,
Because
like,
it,
what was segregation? Okay, so in '69, when you went there, tell us the difference of like cultural.
okay, when I went there in 69 and I got to New York, first of all, let me tell you a story, a little short story. I was riding the train one day going down Sis House in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
And on the train came a black man and a white woman. Well, my feathers was straight up coming out of the side. And then she leaned over and kissed him. And I was like, oh my God, let me get off this train.
It's getting
I
ready to
got
go
off
down.
the train. It wasn't my stop. But I got off the train and wait till the next train came to get on. Because I refused to ride the train with this white woman kissing on this man. Because my mind went back to
Right.
Florence.
Yeah, what you're used to seeing when
Exactly.
something like that happened. I got you.
Exactly. Because I knew that we never saw that.
Right.
You know, my brother went out and bought me a book because I was so illiterate about so many things
Mm-hmm.
coming from the South,
Right.
okay, that your parents didn't talk about around you.
Right.
Some
Right.
things we were kept in the dark.
Right. Well, I guess it was like to shelter you from that time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was a sheltered child. I
Mm.
really was. My brother sheltered me from New York to Florence.
Mhm.
okay, through my mom.
Mhm.
All righty. If my brother didn't say it was okay, then my mom wouldn't allow me to do it.
And you talking about Uncle Buster.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that's
So
that was your oldest brother.
that
Uncle
was
Buster
my
was the oldest.
oldest brother.
Mhm.
Now, just let the audience know. My father died when I was only 14 months old.
Mhm.
So my oldest brother actually became my daddy.
Right.
Okay. And for a long time, I honestly thought that was my father until I think I got around 4 or 5, and my mom explained the reason why he said that he was my daddy.
But that
Because,
remember when I called you when I did the ancestry and I was like, why does this thing say that Uncle Champ was your daddy?
yes, because when my dad died, he actually played that role for
Yeah.
many years.
Yeah, because I
Okay.
think I want to say on they used to do those the census where they used to write them down in the book.
Yeah. Yes.
And I
Yes.
want to say they had like Uncle Buster. What did I tell you? One of the brothers' father. And I was like,
Yeah.
what? I didn't say Uncle Buster was your daddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in the South, you have to realize that a lot of things we just did not know.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't know what grass was, but the grass in the yard.
Right.
So when my brother was saying they all offer you some grass, don't you smoke that grass? I said, why would I
That's right,
smoke?
Mama. Stay away from the reefers.
Why would I smoke grass? And he went and bought a book, and he showed me what reefer, cocaine, heroin, all that. He educated me.
Right. Right.
He said, you go to these bars, don't let nobody. And he taught me one thing: don't ever leave your drink open on the bar. If you do not drink it
I
when
don't
you
drink
come
it.
back.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So just as well as I had a lot to learn
Mm-hmm.
about the South, I had to learn a lot about New York.
Yeah.
New York was just a little ahead of the South.
New York was a whole lot ahead.
Ahead of the South.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because when I got to New York, everybody was saying, "Oh, you'll be back." And I was like, "Oh, no, I will not." I mean, because I had the determination
Right. Right.
that I was not coming back
Right.
to South Carolina
Right. Because you
because
didn't
I
see a future there with all the restraints during that time.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, and I knew that I couldn't get into the schools and the
Yeah.
jobs that I wanted
Hmm.
while I was here.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm so happy that I did take
Yeah.
the leap that I did,
Yeah. Me
because
too.
after 39 years, I was able to come back home,
Right.
and I had a decent retirement,
Right.
Social Security,
Mm-hmm.
compared to what I would have had if
If
I'd have
you would have
stayed
stayed there,
here.
yeah, you probably would still be working like, not at your leisure like you can now. You know what I
Right.
mean? Yeah. So
Exactly.
yeah,
You
so that
know.
was a good thing. So
So, I
so
mean,
did you see life more open and free when you well, I mean, not that you wasn't free when you was in South Carolina, but like
no, you was not. This is what people fail to talk about. We was not free. How are you gonna be free
you're right.
when you have limitations?
Right. You're right.
In New York, I didn't have limitations.
Right. You could just do whatever you want to.
I could go anywhere I want to. And not only that, was accepted.
Yeah. Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
When I left New York, I mean Florence, I went to New York, and I worked at Bell New York
Bell
Tel.
Who?
New York Tel.
Okay, okay.
I worked there for a year,
Mhm.
and they put me on a split shift, 10 to 1, 5 to 9. And my brother said, I can never make it back 5 to 9. So he said to me, you better go find you a job because these people going to fire you. So my sister-in-law, Janet, went
Mm-hmm.
to Citibank, and she called me and told me about Citibank.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and applied and got hired the very same day.
Yeah, I
One
remember when you
thing,
worked at Citibank. Yep.
one thing my brother taught me, my oldest brother taught me. He
Mm-hmm.
never taught me nothing wrong. Everything he tell me, I listened because it was a true matter. He say, stay on a job long enough that the job is gonna pay you one day. And I did. I stayed at Citibank
You did.
for 24 years.
You did. Boy, I remember them days. Woo
Oh
woo.
yes. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Those was the good old days.
So like, okay, so now let's talk about the comparison. Like, what would you say about um like the activists and famous people who was doing, who was fighting for the cause, who was working towards good, and let's just start with my generation. Like, where would you see, do you see like a big difference between your generation and my generation? Because my generation started at 1965. Yeah, we go from 1965 to like 1980, 80 or something like that.
Okay.
So, you know, like
It- it-
I, as a teenager, I don't really remember nothing as a child, but as a teenager, you know,
You don't remember jumping roof?
I remember that, mom, but that's not what we're talking about. So
Okay.
I remember that. Okay. But what I'm saying is, like, the segregation and all of that had done passed by the time I got in, school age. I didn't have to,
Right,
I don't
right,
remember going through having to go to an all black school, or it was, and then we was in New York, so I didn't know anything but that. So where would you see, now I do see the difference in even going down south in the summertime. I see that there's a difference when it comes to the community as a whole.
right.
There was a difference between when I would go down south with Granny, or when I got older and I would go down south to Audrey House and stuff like that. For the summers, there was a community difference. The
Mm-hmm.
community was, our community was, more close knit. Everybody looked out for each other.
Each other.
Everybody supported each other. And now we had that, I would say, our family had that, but to go outside to say like my friends had that, I really couldn't tell you that I saw that a lot outside our family, because our New York family and our down south family is two
Totally different.
completely different environments.
Mm-hmm.
Like our New York family, they always get together, support each other. Like, you got people going, somebody graduating, they let, whatever it is, like, we there, and even like how y'all used to have like little parties at Betty house in the project,
Yeah.
or our
Block
Francis house or
parties.
anything. Yeah, like, it was always mainly family there. Then you have like those family friends that they grew up with, that became family, but it was always like family around. So what would you say would be the biggest difference? Because I know like Dominique's generation and Dante's generation, even though Dante probably could be considered a millennium, but generational Z, like I can tell you the difference in between from my generation to them. But like, what is your take on it from an elder's point of view?
Well, I did. Okay, let me do my generation, your generation, and my grandkids' generation.
Hmm.
Okay. My generation was a struggle.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Your generation had bloomed.
Mm-hmm.
It bloomed in your generation.
Right. We had more opportunities.
Y'all had more opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we did, we had to struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Ours was a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And your generation, as I stated, was blooming.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And when it comes to Dante and Dominique, it is already flourished. It's
So
told.
you like, okay, for you don't think that I guess the direction is different too. Because
Okay.
like when I look at, like, we can't really say Dante and Dominique. We got to point at their generation because Dante and Dominique are a little bit different, you know.
Okay.
So like I know, like for me, when I was a drill, remember when I was a drill,
Yeah.
it was like um it was like the millenniums. In would it be the millenniums? Yeah, it would be the
It
millenniums.
will be the
It
millennium.
was the millennium. So because they came after us. So it was the millenniums. And
Right.
so, you know, a lot of them, like, we played outside because that's what y'all showed us, because that's what y'all did. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? We
Mm-hmm.
didn't have all those, you guys didn't have all those opportunities. So y'all parent us the way y'all was parent.
Right.
And so, um, you know, we played outside. We drank from the spigot. You know, we did what y'all did because that's what y'all knew to do, you
That's
know.
what we knew to do.
Yeah. And so I think that's really where the difference comes in, is because when my generation became parents, you know, everything was a way more advanced than how it was with you all. We had, you like you said, more opportunity, more
Mm-hmm.
different things to you know turn to and see. And I think, like when you were saying you didn't see no future for the success that you wanted within you. So
Right.
you knew that, okay, I can't stay here because I can't fulfill my purpose that I feel like
Exactly.
I have.
Exactly.
So and I think that's where a lot of people miss out, because like when I was in Florence, I was miserable because I didn't feel like, amongst other things, I didn't feel like I was really where I was supposed to be, you know, where I could really be my true authentic self,
Mm-hmm.
because that just wasn't my speed, you know what I mean?
Right. Right. Right.
So, and I think in small towns like that, it's unfortunate that the world moves on faster than the town.
Exactly.
And I think, like, when it comes to our hometown, the world moves on, but you know, some things and some people in our town just haven't caught up to um the rest of the
To
world.
the time. To
Yeah,
the
yeah, to the
time.
rest of the world.
Because you
That,
got to remember, each year everything changes.
yeah, yeah,
Time changes.
right.
Because I deal with at my job now, I deal with a lot of 14, 15, and 16-year old.
Mhm.
And I see such a big difference
Mhm.
in those children
Yeah,
than what I would have done
right,
in my days.
right.
The things and the way they talk and
Right.
their mannerism,
Right.
their mind thinking.
Yeah.
I would
Mhm.
never have been that way with my parents
Right, right,
because first of all, they wouldn't allow it,
right.
you
Yeah,
know.
I got you.
So I mean, when you look at a
Mhm.
generation changes, and
Mhm.
I do believe it. And I think I look back and sort of study some of this. A generation changes every 10 years.
Right.
I think that's what Wikipedia had
Mhm.
said.
Mhm.
A generation changes every 10 years.
Yes, I think it's yeah, I just think it depends, because it when I was looking at it, like some, it started like every 20 and then it started changing. But yeah.
So we got to realize that what the bringing up I got
Right, right.
versus to now, is so far-fetched off,
Right.
you know. And the
So,
only thing we can try to do is direct our kids
right, right,
the best we can.
right. Yeah. So do you think
Because
your generation was
they got so many opportunities out
well,
here
yeah.
wherein I didn't have those opportunities.
Right.
You
So
know,
I think the baby boomers and all generation before the baby boomers, like y'all were the, you know, sufferers, for lack of a better
yes,
words.
yes.
Like I mean, it got better each generation when they started,
Mm-hmm.
naming generations or putting us in a category. Um, but I think that you guys were like, um, if you know, if you was making a you guys were like the backbone
Right.
of all of us, like
But we
we're
learned
moving
to
off of
appreciate.
yeah, we're moving off of all the sacrifices and all the hardships and all of that the baby boomers and beyond um have paved the way for the rest of us, and like I said, like when it comes to like the whole parenting, like you said, the way the generational Z, you're like there's a big difference in the way they respond versus even the millenniums. I can
Mm-hmm.
even say that it's a difference between generational Y and generational Z when it
Right.
comes to parenting and all that kind of thing. Because like I don't know if well, no, I did. Like, so I took a lot of my parenting from you, from a dot, um, and that's what I mirrored.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a lot of that old school
Right.
because A
Right.
Dot was my great aunt. You know what I'm
Uh-huh.
saying? She wasn't like my aunt, she was my great aunt.
Great aunt.
So yeah, so I took a lot of that from the 50s and the 40s and the 60s, parenting skills. And I didn't always get it right, but that's where my foundation came
Came
from.
from.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody in my generation can't say that they had that poured into them. So
That's
I
right.
think that's where the difference comes in because it kind of like trickles down. So I think a lot of that is the main difference on how we parent and what the generational Z's are getting. And it's not just to say if you didn't grow up down south, you didn't get good parenting. No.
That's right.
Right, because it depends on the values and the norms that was in your family.
That's right. That's
Right.
right. And
So
see,
if you
when
know,
I choose to go to New York, that I wanted to get away from South Carolina, that was my opinion.
right, that was something in you that you
That was
like,
something in
right,
me that I had seen during the growing up.
right.
Okay. But I
Hmm.
had a good childhood. Don't
Hmm.
get me wrong. I
Right.
had a good childhood. I was surrounded by good people.
And love.
Okay. And love.
Hmm.
Even to my teenage years.
Right.
All righty. We, yeah, we did some things in our teenage year, as I say, my girls and I, but we did them. First of all, we never went overboard because we was afraid of our parents.
Hmm.
Okay. And we gave our parents respect. And
Right.
not only our parents, but older people
Right.
respect.
Hmm.
But I personally, I had a good childhood. I cannot sit here and say that I had no, I did not.
And
Okay.
that's a testament to the time that you grew up in, but you were still
Exactly.
able to, say, "Oh, I had a good childhood, and it felt good, or I felt loved, and it
Exactly.
wasn't bad."
No,
To
I
us
always,
now, it's like you put me back then, and it was I'm not finished.
But I loved it to go to school. Why? Because I even had love at school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I just, I had, as I stated, I had a good childhood. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, my mom could feed us and dress us. Some things might have came from the secondhand store, but
Mm-hmm.
they were good clothing.
Yeah, it was new to you.
It was new to me, but and I was clean. My
Right.
mom kept me clean.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but I'm saying, in the generation and nowadays, my mama wouldn't have never paid $200 for a pair of sneakers.
Mm-hmm.
I got a pair of sneakers for $1.50 and was happy.
Well, I
I
mean,
used to go. I used to go to my aunt house in the country, um, during the summer, and my brothers would come and sneak me from out in the country. You know, so these are the things that was so much. They would rather keep me than my aunt.
right.
Okay, so I mean, I had a good upbringing,
Yeah.
but I just had in my mind when I got grown
That you just
or
wanted something
older,
different. Yeah.
there was nothing here in Florence for me. The
Mm.
things that is in Florence now was not back in the
Right.
60s.
Right.
You
Right.
know, so I just couldn't see myself. I wanted better
Yeah, and
for
it's just
myself.
it's just and like you said, it's a generational thing. Like when I
It
was in
is.
Florence, I just
It is.
couldn't stay there.
I
It was
I did not want to leave my mom, but I wanted to do better.
right. You wanted to fulfill your purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so
Exactly.
and that could have been anywhere. How whatever your upbringing was, wherever it was, it's a testament to you
Exactly.
and your community, your village, however it was during that time, because I'm sure somebody could say that lived in Chicago or that lived in Mississippi, you know can say, all right, if I was born in 1950 and I didn't have a good upbringing because this is what I was exposed to, or what I mean. So I think it's just a testament to you and your
Exactly.
village that you was exposed to, that were you were able to feel that, even during that time, even you knew you couldn't go to certain parts of the city and you had to go in from the back door, all these different things, you can still say, I had a great childhood,
But
I
but
had
believe
so
it
much
or not,
love, and I
I
just
look at it as being history.
it is. It definitely is.
It's history. You know, like um I remember one time my mom said, "Well, if you want to go to the movie, you better go pick some cotton."
Oh, okay.
Okay? So me and Pat went on the corner where the people go to pick the cotton. But my mama gave us, I think, about $5 a piece. And they stopped at the store before we went to pick the cotton.
And y'all done spend the five
And
dollars.
we spent the $5. Me and Pat ain't never picked no cotton. We sat down and ate the food we bought.
Lord,
So
what y'all
I'm
was supposed to
telling
y'all
you
the $5 was for the transportation?
that no, the $5 for your lunch.
Lord have mercy.
But me and Pat had done eat up the lunch for lunchtime.
Help us, Lord, help us.
So
Mm-mm.
we came back home with no money.
No money, no food, and no
No,
cotton.
no money, no food, and no cotton.
Lord have mercy.
So,
And you didn't get your driver's license until, Mama, how old was you when you got your driver's license?
oh Lord, don't tell nobody. Yeah, I was
Shake
in
my
my
head.
50s when I got my
You sure
driver's
what?
license. I was in my 50s, but I'm telling you, though these things was history.
Well, look, how about this? And I think this is where, again, history is repeating itself. When Uncle Champ, Uncle Buster, and Uncle Jake, and Uncle Fred, and Uncle Richard was in the war, right?
No, Uncle Champ,
Uncle Champ,
Uncle Jay.
Uncle Jake.
Remember Richard said nobody would never take him.
You wonder why?
Pat,
Pat.
Okay. Out of the 5 boys, only 3 went in the
Okay,
service.
so when Uncle Jake and Uncle Buster went, when they came back, were they different?
Yes,
How so?
real different.
Mhm.
When Jay, I can say Jay. Now I can't remember when Buster went, cause to remember now,
Yeah, you were
Buster
smaller.
went in the army when I was a baby.
Okay.
Okay, but when Jake came back, Jake was more um educated,
Okay.
real educated. He believed it. Okay, before he went over there, it was like, I'm going in the army. They done drafted me, and I'm going.
Mhm.
But
I'm
when
gonna do
he
my
came,
part.
and when he came back, he was stuck on education.
Because he had a
A
opportunity to
chance
see
to
it. Yeah. Okay.
exactly.
hmm
And he felt like all of us should have had that same education.
Yeah. Okay. But like, did in how about in a negative way? The war didn't affect them in a negative
It
way,
didn't
being as
affect
though they made them
not
go.
that I saw it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So it was.
Okay.
I guess. Yeah. I guess it just affects people
Because you got
different.
to remember now, when Jake came back from now, I was still in my early um 20s,
hmm
so I was just out there.
So you mean to tell me the only one got messed up in the war was Uncle Pat?
Uncle Pat got
Yeah.
lost in the sauce.
Lost in the sauce. He used to kill me talking about the Asian orange. The Asian
The
orange did
Asia
it. Every
on.
time it was always the Asian orange.
Well, they had came and told us Pat was missing in action
He
and dead.
probably was. He left and went
He
somewhere he
was.
didn't
He
have
was
no
in
business.
Japan. He was in Japan in the hospital.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, it's a lot of change,
Yeah,
but it's a
yeah,
good. We had parents that took us to church,
yeah.
and we had strict rules as far as going to church.
I
You
got
didn't go out Saturday night. You
you.
didn't go to if you didn't go to church, you didn't go out on the weekends.
Right. Okay. All right.
Okay? And that was because our parents
Right.
had wanted us to be educated
Yeah,
in
and to
that sense.
understand, and just to understand where your foundation should be,
Uh-huh.
putting God first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my mother did a good job of that,
Yeah, I
you know.
remember we used to go see Dr. Burroughs.
Yeah. Dr.
Mhm,
Burroughs all the
mhm,
time. God bless
mhm.
his dead.
Bless his heart. Yeah.
Yes, but we went to see Dr. Burroughs.
Yeah.
But coming up in the South, as I stated, in the early 60s, it was a rough time, but
Mhm.
it was also a good time.
Yeah,
You
because
know,
it just seems like as a community, African Americans, as a community, everybody had the same struggle.
mm-hmm,
So it was more of a closeness that drew everyone closer together.
exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what? I have to mention this because it just came on my mind. When we as a family, when one ate, the whole family ate.
Mhm.
It didn't matter who feed us,
Right.
which sister fed us,
Right.
but the whole family ate.
Yeah, and for your grandmama had 13,
13 children.
13 children.
Hmm. But my grandmother died when I was 6 years old.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
What her name was again?
Um,
Mamie. What name
no,
Mamie?
no,
Um,
no. If you hadn't seen nothing, I could tell. Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. That's how you got
Lizzie.
that Lizzie name.
Lizzie.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Uh,
That's how I got that Sally Lizzie.
has Sally Lizzie.
Her
Well,
name was
Mama, I
Elizabeth.
so appreciate. Well, let me ask you this before we close. If you had to pick between the baby boomers, the millenniums, the no, the baby boomers, the generational X, the millenniums, which is Gen Y, and Gen Z, who would you say in your mind is the best generation?
I would have to say my generation.
What?
Yes, because like I say, we had a struggle, but we had good times. Now
Yeah,
the generation, and you got to remember now, the generation change,
yeah, yeah.
change.
But then
People,
you have more. You wouldn't say that the 70s was where it was popping though.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. My generation,
Yeah, but
because
y'all wasn't born there. We was born in the 70s. We brought all the poppiness.
okay, y'all might have bought the poppiness, and we didn't know about the poppiness, but there was other things that we knew about.
Yeah, y'all knew
We
about the
knew how.
grass.
I
Yeah.
know what it is. We knew how to survive.
You got a good point. You got a
Okay,
good point.
we knew how to survive. Y'all survived because
Of
we
y'all.
had
Yeah.
learned to survive
Yeah, you right.
and knew how to take care of y'all.
Yeah, you right. And you right. You right. That's a good point. I had to give you that one. Ting. I have to give you that one. I have to give you that
So
one.
we
Ting.
that's where I say my generation, because my generation taught y'all how to survive.
What even like when you think about music, when you think about music, even back in those days, when you hear artists now, they're like, yeah, where their inspiration came from. It's usually like from somebody in the 50s and the 60s.
Exactly.
Yeah,
The
yeah, it's usually
temptation.
like somebody because it was real music then. Baby
Exactly.
making music.
Now your daddy.
Put
When
on
you
some Marvin Gaye.
when you get in his truck, what do you hear?
Oh yeah, that's
That
all my dad
old
listens to.
music.
He think he a pimp. He
Yeah,
think
he think that.
he say Big Daddy. Big Daddy.
I got your big daddy. He done eat them hot dogs. He big daddy.
Don't do my daddy. Don't do my daddy on. Don't do my daddy in front of all these people. Don't do my daddy.
Yes,
My daddy
sir.
is he. That's Big Daddy right there. That's Big Daddy. Okay. Long as y'all know that's Big Daddy.
That's big daddy.
Well, Mama, I sure appreciate you being a part of
I
my
appreciate being here.
podcast and us just having this little talk. And I
I
saw how you
enjoy
tried to
it.
throw some stories out there about me, but this ain't about me. This is about you. Okay. This is about you.
Okay. All
It's
right.
about you, okay?
All right.
And just to hear, to let the people know from someone who experienced those things. And I know it enlightened me to hear you say, it warmed my heart to hear you say, I had an amazing childhood in spite of, you know what I'm
In
saying?
spite
Like,
of.
yeah,
Yes,
I had an
indeed.
amazing childhood. So, um, yeah, yeah, that was this was great. And
Yeah, it
um,
really was. It
yeah, you
really,
kind
really
of got
was.
me like, because I had in my mind who I thought the best generation was, but now I'm kind of feeling like, no, know about all that. So we're gonna see what the weeks bring out for the month of April. And when we get to
Okay.
the end, we're gonna decide on who's the best generation, what is the best era here. Okay.
That's it.
Okay,
That's
that's
it.
you. That's you. Okay, all right. You call that thing, Mama. You call that thing.
Yes, sir.
Well, people, we are drawing to an end here. I would like to thank my mother for being a part of my podcast tonight to talk on behalf of the baby boomers. I know for me it was very enlightening because some of that stuff she had never told me before, So and just to see how, like she said, what they poured into us, we pouring into our kids, and some things that,
Exactly.
we unfortunately we're not, or the kids just ain't getting it for whatever reason. But we're gonna go all into that every week. We're gonna focus on another generation until the end of the month. So next week we're gonna talk to, yes, Gen X. Gen X. That will be 1965 to 1984, I believe. So that would be all of us now in my generation. And We're gonna have some amazing guests on.
Yes, sir.
To talk about our generation and what they see, the same things my mother talked about, and then we're going to compare our generation to the baby boomers and everybody before and those after, and just where we see where we could have done different, or just what we see from our foxhole. So this was a great night. I just want to thank God as always for giving me this platform, an opportunity to walk in my purpose, because I love my podcast. You heard me? I'm a superstar in my own mind. Yes, I am. And my production team, my family here at Brass Mill, thank you, thank you, thank you. And to my lovely guests, my dear mother, who has been preparing for this podcast since 4 o'clock. Okay, okay. So next week again, tune in 7 o'clock sharp. Um, we're gonna be here with our Gen X's, and you don't want to miss that. So until then, be blessed, have a great night, and smooches.
Muchas, thank